Greenville today, guys, is a thriving and growing market. However, it is helpful for you to understand that there is a hot and cold pocket that exists within Greenville and the sub-Greenville areas you need to know about before you buy. Our goal in this video is for you to understand exactly what you need to know in 2026, because that's when we're shooting this video. And it's also helpful to understand that this data always constantly is changing. So if you do want a deeper dive into what the market looks like when you see this video, and if you're interested in Greenville, feel free to reach out below or reach out to us directly. But our goal in this video is to help you understand exactly what the Greenville market looks like right now, so it saves you tens of thousands of dollars. We're gonna focus on 5 hot and 5 cold markets here in Greenville. So first on the docket, you need to understand what days on market and month supply of inventory actually looks like and what it means. So month supply of inventory, for a example, is a 6-month inventory block is an even market, meaning for every one buyer, there's one seller at 6 months. Anything below 6 months is going to be a seller's market. Anything above 6 months is going to be a buyer's market. In a seller's market, there is typically less inventory for a buyer to see. So that means a buyer has less leverage because there's simply less supply for them to choose from in any given zip code or area or suburb. Now, on the other hand, you have a buyer's market that's above 6 months of inventory. That means there's a surplus of inventory in that given location, meaning a buyer can take the time, relax, breathe, look at multiple different options, and instead of that other zip code that's a seller's market, where you might have 3 or 4 houses to look at in any given zip code or neighborhood, let's say the buyer's market has 12, 15, 20 options for you to choose from. Well, those sellers are gonna have to show up to the game. They're probably gonna also have to shell out some closing costs or be a little bit more lenient on that price, simply because of supply and demand ratios. Now, guys, it'll be helpful for you to understand right now we have 3 markets going on in Greenville at once. It kind of mirrors what we had before 2020. So above $1 million, we have 6.4 months of inventory. It's helpful for you to understand that this time last year, we had 5.4 months. That's a big gap that has been growing for the last year. That means that it's a buyer's market. It's above 6 months of inventory. These listing appointments that I have with these people across the board, but especially in a buyer's market, is that 1 bag of mulch outside is not going to cut it. Putting 1 or 2 flowers outside is not going to cut it either. You need to do the deferred maintenance that probably exists in your home before you list the house. You also need to make sure that if there's any painting that needs to be done, these people want to move in and not have to do a bunch of maintenance or a bunch of repairs that you should have done before you listed the house. Now, middle of the road right now, and the average price being around $400,000. It's kind of floating in between there the last couple of months. It is the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And in this range, I can say that it is 3.6 months of inventory right now. However, boots on the ground, it does not feel that way at all. We have more inventory to choose from. We actually have about 50% more inventory since the last 5 years. So these buyers are taking their time. They're making sure they can show the house multiple times to friends and family and make sure that they're feeling like they make the best decision. Now, below 200,000, Greenville really doesn't have a ton of inventory in that price range. However, it does still exist for townhomes and maybe some other condos, for example. Now, guys, something I feel I need to mention right up front is I get a lot of phone calls, and a lot of the first questions that I get are we writing offers that are not contingent on appraisal and inspection? And can I have time to sell my house? And I need you to understand that across the board, whether it's a $200,000 house or a $3.5 million home, these sellers are more willing to do and negotiate sellers' closing costs, making sure that you have time to sell your house, and also do inspections, which is called a due diligence period. Again, if you have further questions about what that looks like, our contracts continue to change. And if you're looking at this in the future, chances are it's probably a different contract as well, so we can go into those details later. Guys, the point of me bringing that up is we are no longer writing contracts that are not contingent on appraisal, inspections, or even having escalation clauses, so you can take a little bit of a breath. If you have a house to sell, have us come out and take a look at it, but we are writing contracts that are contingency contracts now, so just be aware of that. First on the docket, guys, let's talk about the top 5 cold markets. Number 5 is Taylor's and the older parts of Taylor's. Because it's established, a lot of these houses that are $450,000 and above, in my experience when showing these, have kitchens and bathrooms and flooring that are a little tired, yet they're asking for the top dollar as opposed to some of the new construction options. As a buyer, I would ask for closing costs and also maybe some seller concessions on maybe replacing that carpet that's 50 years old. Number 4 on the list is Greer, more specifically the luxury market, and more specific than that is Lake Robinson. You've got $900,000 and above prices that are sitting there for more than 5+ months because a lot of the luxury market is really telling everybody that they want walkable distances to downtown Greenville or even downtown Greer specifically. So while Lake Robinson has a lot of big views and also big lots, a lot of those luxury people are just sitting on the market longer and longer. So you as a buyer have more leverage again to make sure that you can ask for closing costs or even asking off that list price if you're paying cash, and you're going to get a better deal in that situation. Number 3 on the list has to be Anderson, more specifically the Powdersville area. And while this area is continuing to grow substantially, it also feels like the $600,000 and above price range continues to stay around the pricing that we experienced in 2022, for example. Buyers are going to really look at the prices versus the commute time to wherever that is, whether it's church, work, school, that is important to them, and they're going to compare Greenville County as opposed to this county because taxes are a little bit cheaper in this location. However, drive time might be a little bit more. So really quality of life is something that they're going to look at in Powdersville versus Greenville. And as a pro tip for a seller in this location, I would highly advise, and this is my opinion only, that you should probably price 10% below the Greenville comparables in this location. Number 2 on the list is Northern Greenville, more specifically the outer edges of Travelers Rest. And for a pro tip, sellers really need to be marketing to a person that is looking for scenic views because that's what Travelers Rest does have. It has beautiful mountain views, larger lots, but also in this location, realize that boots on the ground for me, it's really the Wild West. You could have a $2 million house on 25 acres next to a trailer park, and while nothing is wrong with a trailer park, you need to understand that there's not as many constraints on what the county is dictating needs to go in these specific locations like Greenville County specifically does. So that's something you need to be aware of. The reason that $600,000 and above sits typically is because of the distance that people see to grocery stores, downtown Greenville, and farmers markets. That might be, again, a quality of life piece that is going to really equate into whether or not someone's going to buy in that location. Number 1 on the list has to be downtown Greenville condos. The reason for that is because HOA, first of all, is between $500 and $1,000 a month. So a lot of buyers are saying, I love downtown and I love walking downtown. However, why would I not just buy something that's a single family home in, let's say, Five Forks, Simpsonville, and drive maybe 20 minutes downtown as opposed to paying the exorbitant prices, because all of those condos, for the most part, are between $800 and $1.5 million. In addition to that HOA. So yes, while quality of life is great, the cost is very high. So a lot of these buyers are saying, well, kind of weighing the pros and cons of being downtown and paying that price, and is it worth it versus going outside of downtown just a little bit and having a quality of life that is a little bit less expensive as opposed to downtown Greenville and their condos. As a side note as well, just be aware that there are still some condos that are around $500,000, and those are typically still selling very quickly. Now guys, let's talk about the hot markets. Number 5 is Greer, more specifically the Riverside School District. The reason people love this location is because of the location. It is centrally located to get to downtown Greenville, even Travelers Rest, really easy, but it's also a very good school district, an award-winning one at that. Also, a lot of these locations house a lot of employees that work at BMW and Michelin, so it's very easy to get on the highway and get where you need to go quickly, but also value for money is really good here too, because the average price is around $336,000. You've got 2.5 months of inventory, which is a seller's market 100%. So a lot of these sellers know what they have and they're charging for it, and they're getting it. So a lot of these people below $450,000 oftentimes get multiple offers. Now, number 4 on the list has to be Malden. That is south of Greenville. Right now we have 2.4 months of inventory in this location. And in my opinion, a lot of revitalization is happening in this location, mainly due to Bridgeway Station and everything that that has to offer as well. Right now, the median price is $355,000. And if you are looking at a house below $400,000 in this location, just be ready to be very competitive. Mainly looking for a conventional loan is what a seller's looking for, at least, and making sure that the offer is as clean as possible. Number 3 on the list has to be Simpsonville as well, because you get what you pay for in this location. It's highly desirable, mainly because of all the amenities and the school districts that come along with it. A lot of new construction in this location. Now, if you're looking for an older neighborhood with no HOA, that also exists in this location as well. HOAs are not very expensive in this location, but again, you have very easy access to Woodruff Road and 385 and 85 to get to downtown Greenville if that's what you want. Right now in Simpsonville, we have between 2.1 and 2.3 months of inventory, which makes it a highly seller's market, meaning sellers really have all of the leverage here. So as a buyer, just realize if you're looking for something below $450,000, it's probably going to have multiple offers if it's in a neighborhood, especially with a pool or other amenities. Number 2 on the list is North Main, or more specifically, Overbrook. This location is very high in charm, but also these are going to be older houses and they're going to be a little bit smaller. Yes, you're going to be paying for convenience, but also just realize that these houses are typically going to be at least 50 years old or older. A lot of them are going to be a mixed bag if you're looking at multiple in that location, that some could be fully renovated and some could be not touched for the last 50 years. And they're going to be very close in price just because of the location, so you're going to be paying for charm in this spot. Now, while we still do have a lot more inventory than we experienced in the last 5 years, it is notable that there is still just 2 months of inventory in this location, so technically on paper, it is a seller's market. Now guys, the moment you've been waiting for, number 1 on the list is Five Forks. Five Forks is a specific location within Simpsonville, and I know Simpsonville was on the list, but this really takes the cake because it is the most expensive, most sought after, and most relocated to location, mainly because of all the amenities you have. Again, great school districts, easy access to 385 and 85, but it also has dining, it has any kind of workout facility that you want, literally anything you need for the ease of just living, car washes, grocery stores. It is really just 5 minutes or less down the road, and that's why I feel like it is the most desirable location. In this location, helpful to understand, as of right now, we have 1.8 months of inventory. That's the lowest inventory across the board that made the list. So be aware, it's a very heavily seller's market. So sellers hold the power when negotiating. Just be aware that anything below $450,000 on a routine basis is probably going to get multiple offers within the first few days of it being listed. All right, guys, so that's just the tip of the iceberg. As always, with real estate, it is hyper local and it is not national. So if you do want more information about what we talked about on this video, or if you want to explore other areas and suburbs, of course, reach out to us in the comments below or reach out to me directly. And as always, remember, with DeLisle Properties, luxury always comes standard.